Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys probably one of my most longest videos ever, and that is because I have a very difficult time letting go of my eyeshadow palettes. But today I have to get rid of my eyeshadow palettes. I think like half of my eyeshadow palettes because it's just taking up too much room and I have to make more room for more inventory for my business. I'm going to be launching something very new soon. I will have a video here sharing with you guys my new products. So I'm hoping for this week, maybe Sunday, maybe Saturday. No, Saturday's for Spanish. Maybe tomorrow. Girl, I don't know. Just hang tight and make sure you guys are subscribed to my channel. Turn on post notifications so you don't miss out on any future uploads from me. Now let's go ahead and get started with the longest video. Make sure you grab a snack and let's get started.
No, I'd rather be waking up with you. Set up alone in your room, slept with the light on, waiting up for you. I don't wanna be.
Okay guys, so I'm gonna be going through this box here. I actually keep my palettes inside of boxes in the background of my videos. You guys will probably see them on my shelves, but I've gotten to a point where I think I have a little bit too many eyeshadow palettes and I don't use majority of them, so I really want to try and get rid of some. It's hard for me to let go of some of these eyeshadows, but I know that I have to do it. So let me go ahead and set these aside. And I'm going to go ahead and start off with this palette here from ColourPop. This is their Sandstone eyeshadow palette. I actually just received this maybe 2 weeks ago, so I'm definitely not going to be getting rid of this one. It has really pretty eyeshadows in here that can be used for every day. The shimmers are also really great in this palette. I'll have a video linked up above so you guys can check out a tutorial using this eyeshadow palette. I'm going to get a few more uses before I get rid of this one. The next palette that I have is the Hip Dot Xeon eyeshadow palette. And this palette has a good size mirror and the colors are super pigmented, super easy to blend out. I'm definitely enjoying this palette. I want to get more use out of it before I decide to get rid of it. I'll have videos linked down below in my description box of tutorials using the eyeshadow palettes that you guys will be seeing in this video here. Then we're going to move along to the Jawbreaker Jeffree Star eyeshadow palette. Now, I have not been purchasing from Jeffree Star Cosmetics for quite a while, and the reason for that is because I just don't get a lot of use out of his palettes. It's hard to describe. I just don't find myself using his eyeshadow palettes as much, and they're pretty pricey, so I'm just not going to be purchasing from him until a palette really calls my name. This one definitely called my name because there's so many vibrant shades in here. I just can't get rid of his stuff because his packaging is adorable. So I'm going to set this aside, not getting rid of that right now. I have this Pinky Rose Cosmetics Volume 1 eyeshadow palette. I've probably used this 2 or 3 times already. The colors in here are pretty dark. You can use this for like an evening night out, but you also have these top shades right here that you can use for any daytime looks. The shimmers are also really pretty. I don't want to get rid of this palette because this is one of my favorite Pinky Rose Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes. So I'm going to be keeping this one as well. Hopefully I'm going to get rid of some stuff. This here is the Pinky Rose Cosmetics Extreme Contour palette. This is not an eyeshadow palette. I don't know why I put it in here. This is what this one looks like. I am going to be getting rid of this because a lot of these contour colors are very orangey on my skin tone and I just don't like that. So I'm going to be getting rid of this one here. Okay, the next palette we have here is the Tati Volume 1 eyeshadow palette. I've been actually seeing some scandals revolving around Tati's brand, but regardless, this is her very first launch and I don't know, like the colors are really pretty in this palette. My issue with this is that I think this is the palette that started to make me realize that I cannot use glitters on my eyes because my eyes are pretty sensitive, and every time I put these glitters on my eyes, not just these glitters, okay, I don't want you guys to think that it's just these glitters here. Every time I wear glitters on my eyes, they get really red the very next morning. I do wash off my makeup pretty well, so I don't know, it's just something about glitters. I cannot wear them near my eyes, so that sucks. This row right here almost looks like, I don't know, it's hard to describe. I don't want to swatch them because I still have a lot of palettes to go through. But these here, when you start to blend them out, you lose the shimmer. So, I mean, if you start to place it onto the center of your eye or anything, the glitter starts to kind of fall off as well. So the only rows that I get use out of is this one right here and this one. I have a hard time letting go of this one only because it's Tati's very first palette, and I'm probably going to use it a few more times before letting it go. Even though I haven't been using it lately, I just have a hard time letting this one go. So I'm going to keep this one for now. This next palette here is the Clara Malibu 24 eyeshadow palette. So this one was actually gifted to me by my daughter on Mother's Day. And I have a hard time letting this go because my daughter like wanted to buy me this. You know, it's hard when it's a sentimental gift. But I really do not like this eyeshadow palette. Like these colors are very chalky. They're not pigmented at all. So I feel really bad if I get rid of it. So I guess I'm going to keep that one. Okay, now we're going to move it along to the next palette. This is the Wet n Wild 32 pan eyeshadow palette. This is from their holiday collection, and you guys can see this palette was only $15. I did try this out, I think like last year, and I haven't been playing with it because obviously I'm receiving all the time like different palettes for me to try out and review. But this one, I don't even think it's sold anymore, so I just don't like posting videos using palettes that you guys are not able to buy. So I'm definitely going to be getting rid of that palette there. Here is the OG Naked Urban Decay eyeshadow palette. This was one of my first palettes. And, you know, when something is discontinued and it was one of your first, like it is just where it all started. I can't get rid of it. This palette here is the Kat Von D, what is it even called? Monarch eyeshadow palette. This is also an OG eyeshadow palette that I started off with. You guys can see that I definitely use this palette like to the core. These shades right here they're so dark, and I just really love this eyeshadow palette so much, but I definitely have to be getting rid of it. I don't really buy a lot of Kat Von D makeup anyway, so I'm going to be tossing that. The next palette is the Naked Urban Decay Smoky palette, which this is like more like a cool toned or evening night out eyeshadow palette. I don't get any use out of this, but the fact that it kind of goes with my Naked collection, I'm going to be keeping this one. Moving along to this Morphe palette, this is the highlighter palette. I forgot I had this. This is like super new, like it actually is new. I have never used it. Yeah, completely new. I'm probably going to put this in a giveaway. I intended to use it, but I guess I forgot that I had it back there. I might use it. I mean, I don't have anything that looks like this highlighter here, so this is like the maybe pile. Now here we have the Nightingale Pretty Vulgar eyeshadow palette. This was 2 years ago from BOXYCHARM, but you guys see my videos for like some of my football inspired makeup looks. I use the crap out of this palette when it comes to this black shade. I really love intense black shades that are easy to blend out. There's some that start to appear really patchy, and this one definitely doesn't do that. I love the intensity of this. I cannot let this go because even though it's probably expired, I continue to reach for this because not a lot of blacks compared to the Pretty Vulgar palette right there. So that's basically it for this box. I'm going to be keeping these palettes like I mentioned to you guys. And I mean, I did kind of get rid of quite a few more fit in here. So here is my second box of eyeshadow palettes that we're going to go through. Here we have the Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 eyeshadow palette. This palette, let me show you guys what it looks like. This here is like the perfect summer palette. I seriously forgot that I had this. So we can't get rid of Jaclyn. This is such a pretty palette. I love colorful palettes, especially when it comes to like oranges and pinks and reds. Like, I gotta keep this. So we're gonna keep Miss Jaclyn, and then let's move it along to this Morphe palette. Probably used this one twice. This is the Blue You Away eyeshadow palette. If you like cooler tones and blues and stuff, this is definitely like a must-have. These performed really well for me when I reviewed the palette and the other couple times that I used it. Definitely like this palette, but I don't use a lot of blue shades. Like, I don't reach for blues often. And if I do, I probably go to my Jeffree Star Blue Blood palette. So I'm going to be letting go of this Morphe palette here. Very lightly used, as you guys can see. It also has the slip with all the names of the eyeshadows. I don't really like that about palettes when they don't have the names on the actual palette. So I'm going to be getting rid of that one. Then let's go on to this Carity Picante eyeshadow palette. Haven't been using this one for a minute already, but when I received it, I remember being obsessed with it. Beautiful warm tones. I think I recently received, I forgot what palette it was, but I have received a palette that has a lot of similar shades to this. So I'm going to be letting go of this one because I think it's time. Then we have the Celestial Thunder Dominique Cosmetics eyeshadow palette. Probably use this twice. Not a lot of use out of it because I just have palettes that contain these shades right here already. Don't need this. So even though I don't own a lot of Dominique Cosmetics palettes, I don't know. I just don't see myself reaching for this again. So I'm going to get rid of this Celestial Thunder palette. And then I'm going to go over to this next palette. This is the 35C Chic Everyday Chic palette from Morphe. I think I broke this one, yeah. Used this palette once, didn't use it again. And it's probably because I'm annoyed at the fact that it broke. So I'm going to be getting rid of this eyeshadow palette. Great color scheme though, but definitely going to get rid of that. This here is the Morphe 18T eyeshadow palette. Sounds like AT&T, right? But this is like an everyday palette. Love it for smoky eye, bronzy eye. This is so perfect. I definitely need to put this closer to my vanity so that I reach for it more often because this is definitely my kind of palette and I'm going to be keeping this one. Then moving over to the Pinky Rose Cosmetics Riley Rose Stormy palette. I've done a review on this palette as well. It has like the little thunderbolts as the eyeshadows. And I want to say that these shimmers are just gorgeous. I'm bothered at the fact that they're thunderbolts. I don't know why. Like, it just bothers me. This is not a palette I would reach for on an everyday basis. I definitely would reach for these shimmers for an everyday basis with the exception of these. Like, these are gorgeous, you guys. Like, I was not going to swatch any, but like, I have to for you guys. Like, these are gorgeous, but I just don't reach for this, like, ever. So I'm going to be getting rid of this palette here. And then moving along to the Hello Charmer BOXYCHARM palette. I was so excited about this palette because you guys can see how beautiful and shimmery these look. I thought this was going to be like just like a shimmer palette, a shimmer shadow, but it's actually like a pressed glitter. The other eyeshadows, the matte shades that I used from this palette were not they weren't pigmented, so I'm going to be getting rid of this eyeshadow palette here as well. And then let me grab this one here. This is the Mood Beauty Bow Cap eyeshadow palette. I love Mood Beauty eyeshadow palettes. They're very pigmented, but this one broke recently and it's becoming really messy. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to get rid of this one, even though this was definitely a great palette. I used it all summer long when I first received it. So many looks that I did using this palette, but it's just really bothering me that this is like getting too messy and I just can't have that mess. Getting rid of that. So then we have the Maddie Ziegler, the Imagination palette. Also done a review on this palette here. This here can be an everyday eyeshadow palette, but also has your pops of color. This first row is like for your everyday, and then the bottom is just all fun. I don't know. I feel like I might get use out of it again. Maybe not. I'm going to keep it in the maybe pile. Then we have the other Mood Beauty Arusha eyeshadow palette. This one. Then we have the Mood Beauty Arusha palette. I cannot get rid of this one since I'm already getting rid of the other one. I want to have a Mood Beauty eyeshadow palette because these are very pigmented, very pretty, and I definitely see myself using this for this next coming summer. So I'm going to keep this one. And then let's see what we have here. This is the Stone Cold Fox ColourPop eyeshadow palette. This recently launched. I've done a review as well. I've used it 1 or 2 times maybe. This is definitely like a cool toned eyeshadow palette, and I just had a difficult time with this eyeshadow palette. It's just not my cup of tea, so I'm going to be getting rid of this one. Moving on to the Kathleen Lights ColourPop So Jaded eyeshadow palette. This has been one of my favorite palettes. I've used it several times, and you guys can see that it has a lot of like everyday shades, but as well it has a lot of colorful shades. It has like a Super Shock shadow formula right over here in this corner. Gorgeous. And I cannot get rid of this Kathleen Lights palette, so I'm keeping that one for sure. Then we have the Alien palette right over here. This is another Jeffree Star eyeshadow palette. I probably use this maybe twice. I don't reach for this eyeshadow palette ever. I just don't see myself using these for an everyday basis. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I want to get rid of it. If it wasn't in this packaging, I probably would let it go. But again, it's like a collector's piece, so I'm just going to go ahead and keep it. Moving along to this next palette. This is brand new. I still haven't opened it. This is the Summer Glow palette, and it has all these little bronzers and stuff like that. I'm probably going to just put this in a giveaway pile because I was originally going to use it. My camera just died. Anyway, I'm going to put this in a giveaway pile because I have too much makeup. Like, I shouldn't keep this, especially if I forgot about it, you know? Like, if it's something I really wanted to use, I would have already used it by now. So I'm just going to set this aside. Then we also have the Jeffree Star Mini Breaker eyeshadow palette. This palette here, I probably won't get a lot of use out of this. So you guys can see the colors here. They're pretty. There's only so many looks that you can create with this palette. I wasn't really a fan of this color here. It's like kind of like a cool tone brown, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I really, really want to get rid of it, but I don't know. I don't know, girl. I'm going to put this in the maybe pile because, I mean, it's a small palette. Like, maybe I should just get rid of it. So that was a maybe. And then we have the Stone Vibes Urban Decay eyeshadow palette. When I received this one, I was really happy about it because this is just like really cute packaging. I just like how things look on display. And you guys can see that these colors right here are really pretty, very unique. But there's only 4 matte shades, and you'd have to play around a lot with shimmer shades, which I really don't like to. I honestly prefer to use matte shades. I do like shimmers, but I don't like using shimmers as an all-over color on my eyes. I have to have mattes. I probably use this once, but I think I want to get rid of this one because I'm probably not going to use this one again. No, I don't know if I want to get... Maybe I'll give it to my sister if she likes it. I don't know. I'll put this aside for one of my family members maybe, but I think I'm going to get rid of that. I can't hold on to it. The next palette that I have over here, I just received this in PR, and I absolutely love Raw Beauty Kristi. I did have some trouble with this eyeshadow palette. If you guys missed my review, it's one of my latest videos, which I'll have linked down below or somewhere up above on the screen. I had troubles with some of these greens, but I recently seen Rocio Ceja. I watch her tutorials often because I love how she does her makeup looks. And I seen that she did like a different technique when applying the blue shade. So I'm going to be trying out her technique, and hopefully I get this palette to work. But my experience with this palette so far was that it was patchy. But I support Raw Beauty Kristi, love her, and I'm going to keep this palette. The next palette that I have here is from the Rare Beauty eyeshadow palette. This one is the Confident Energy eyeshadow palette. It looks like this. I actually received both palettes from Rare Beauty. This one is called the Magnetic Spirit. I don't know how I feel about these. Like, they're all shimmers. Like I said, I just don't like using all shimmers for an eye look. I definitely have to implement some matte shades, and I won't get that out of these. But I do want to keep it because it's the only items that I have from Rare Beauty, so I'm going to be keeping both for now. And this next palette is from Ace Beauty. This is the Scarlet Dusk eyeshadow palette. Oh my god, when I received this palette in my BOXYCHARM box, I was so excited about the color scheme of this palette here. And I created such a pretty look. Like, I was really impressed. I did like a really pretty halo eye, and I was just so happy with that halo eye. I don't think I've ever been more proud of an eye look than the one I created with this one. Since I don't see this palette, it's always towards the back of these little bins. I forget about them, so I want to make sure that I put this closer to my vanity so I start to play around with this a little bit more. I'm going to keep that as well. So this basket is now empty, and I still have another basket, so not to worry. This video is not even close to being over. I'm going to come over to my mini palettes. I have a bunch of little mini palettes in here. So this palette, I received it, I think it was for an Ipsy box from what I remember. This is the Steve Laurent eyeshadow palette, and it has, oh my god, has a bunch of little tiny mini colors. I used this one time for one video, and I probably am not going to use it again. Even though it's listen guys, I'm getting rid of a lot of eyeshadow palettes that I would genuinely keep. And if I didn't have the amount of makeup that I have, this is a palette I would definitely keep. This is like an evening night out type of palette. And it's so compact that you can just put this in your purse and do your makeup when you're on the go. But like I said, I'm just not going to be getting use out of this because I just have way too much makeup. It makes me feel bad that I probably used a lot of these eyeshadow palettes one time and then I have to toss them in the trash. Some of them that are really good, I'm definitely going to be keeping and giving them to my sister or some of my best friends. Right now, it's been, I'll just talk about this later. Let's continue on with getting rid of these palettes before my camera dies. So this here is the Ornate ColourPop eyeshadow palette. This palette is really small. I think it's like $12 or $14 from what I remember. It has warm tone eyeshadows and they're really nice. I love how they blend it out, and I think that this palette is really nice, and I just got it. I don't want to get rid of it. It's such a cute palette. It has the names on the back, as you guys can see. It also has them inside. Doesn't have a mirror, but $12, $14, and the colors that you get in here, I really enjoyed playing around with this. I'm going to keep this a little bit longer, and hopefully I get to play with it more. This is the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea Volume 2 palette. This one was one of my first palettes that I received when I started receiving BOXYCHARM and PR. This is such an old palette. I probably will not get use out of it. I just love the packaging. I really enjoyed getting to play with this palette. I didn't have a large makeup collection then, and I definitely used this quite a lot. I was trying to get noticed by Tarte and I still have not, so girl, whatever. Now moving along to the Baked Browns Joseph Colors eyeshadow palette. This palette came broken and I had to repair it. I think I made a TikTok video on repairing this and it actually went viral. I think it was one of my first viral videos on TikTok. This is a really nice palette, but the fact that it just looks like that, I just don't want to use it again. I'm going to definitely be tossing this one, even though it's really cute and it blended really nice with the colors that I did get to play with. These next palettes are some of my very first eyeshadow palettes that I have. Like, my sister actually purchased these for me, I think for Christmas one year. That is when I first started my YouTube channel, and I think it's so funny because those videos are still up. Maybe they might be private, I don't remember, but these just bring back so many memories because I think I only own 2 other eyeshadow palettes that I used like every time I made a video, because they were the only palettes I had, which were the Urban Decay Naked palette and the Monarch Butterfly, I forgot what it was called, the Kat Von D one that I showed you in the earlier video. But yeah, those were the only 2 eyeshadow palettes until I received these from my sister. This palette here got so much use out of it, you guys can see. And the mirror is actually like coming apart. This palette is so old, but you know what? Like, I have such a hard time letting go of this because it just brings back so many memories from when I started my YouTube channel that I just cannot let it go. And the packaging is honestly really cute. This is the other eyeshadow palette. I think that they were sold as a bundle, and I think that they still are sold as a bundle. So you guys can check those out. I just haven't used them in a while, but really love the fact that these bring back so many memories of when I started my YouTube channel. And then going into the next palette, this one is the Fairy Tale Storybook Cosmetics eyeshadow palette that I received in BOXYCHARM. I love that it's like a little cute book, and it has these colors in here, which I really don't get any use out of. Like, I don't ever reach for this palette. I just love that fact that it looks like a little book, and I used to have it on my shelf just as like decor next to these, because they're also kind of like bulky and they look like little books. But I'm just keeping it for the purpose of decoration, and I don't have any room to like decorate anything because everything is just, I have too many things. So I'm going to let this one go, unfortunately. This here is the Betty Boop eyeshadow palette. This is definitely a collector's item if you are a fan of Betty Boop. I personally am not. I'm not into Betty Boop whatsoever. And let me show you guys what it looks like on the inside. I received this in Ipsy. I'm never going to reach out for this palette. I don't know why it's even in my collection. I reviewed it once and I'm not ever going to use this again. So I'm going to throw this out. I also have this Violet Voss Rainbow Fun Sized palette here. It has all these shimmers that I'm not going to use again. I used it for a Pride Month inspired makeup look, but I can't play with only shimmers. Like, I know I have mattes in different palettes that I can use, but you know, if I have to use multiple palettes to create a look, like, I just don't need it, you know? I'm going to find a palette that has everything that I need for like rainbow looks. And I think I found that in my Morphe James Charles eyeshadow palette. So I'm going to get rid of this for sure. Here is the I Love Sari by Dose of Colors palette. This is such a gorgeous palette. I love the shimmers in here. And I still have not gotten to play with this color here. So I'm going to keep this because I do enjoy the colors that are in here and they're really easy to blend out. So I'm going to put that over there. Moving along to another Ace Beauty. This is the Grandoise palette. This one looks like this. And this is also another palette that, like, you can't go wrong with this brand when it comes to eyeshadows. The formulas are really great. I'm going to be getting rid of this. I probably used it 1 or 2 times, but I'm going to gift this to a family member or a friend because it's been used and I know that they'll love it. Okay, and then we have the Violet Voss I Do Not Care eyeshadow palette. This is a cute little palette. I wasn't a fan of the mattes in here. They were not easy to blend out. They were not pigmented. The shimmers started to really, they weren't very shimmery. Like, the glitter started to like flick off my eye. So I'm going to definitely get rid of this, even though the packaging is adorable. And then we have this Pixie by Petra highlighter and bronzer blush palette, which I totally forgot that I had. If you guys are new to my channel, then you guys probably don't know how obsessed I am with Pixie highlighters. They are so amazing, and I'm definitely keeping this and putting this near my vanity because I forgot that I had that. And then last but not least for my mini palette is this Wet Bretman X ColourPop eyeshadow palette. I think this was maybe my first ColourPop purchase, and I was really excited about these colors here. They're blues, definitely not something that I would normally reach for, but this color definitely is such a gorgeous shade. I have not found anything close to, I think I actually did. I'm not sure what palette it is, but this is such a beautiful silver, like metallic silver color. I wasn't going to swatch any, but look at this. Like, hello, I love this palette. And I remember what palette it was that I received another pretty similar shade, which is right in here in this ColourPop palette as well, Stone Cold palette. But I'm not keeping this, so I'm definitely going to be keeping this mini palette because I have used this several times for some of my makeup looks just for this color right here. I know you guys think that it's over, but it's not. These are my drugstore palettes and we need to go through them. So let's start off with this one. This is the Revlon WW84 Wonder Woman palette. I mean, pretty shimmers, but they're all shimmers once again. So I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm not the biggest Wonder Woman fanatic. Like, I'm not super into that stuff. So it's not gonna hurt me to get rid of it. Then moving on to this Wet n Wild X Pac-Man palette. This here, I like the colors. Hold on. I can't open this. Okay. I think this was definitely a fun palette to use during the summertime. The colors were really, like, they blended into each other really well. They were really vibrant. I had fun with this palette, but I'm just not going to keep it because, again, I have too much makeup. I have other palettes that I can use for that. Then we have the Maverick Revlon palette. This is a palette I recently used for my review of Megan Thee Stallion. She just began to be the face of Revlon, and this was a part of the collection. I'm going to get rid of this. Used it once, but I have like similar shades to this. But if you're on a budget and you want to like reach for a warm tone palette, this is definitely like a must-have. They really perform like high quality shadows, so check it out if you are on a budget. Moving along to this palette, this is the Pixie X Heart. I can't even say that. All you need to know is that I'm getting rid of this palette because I didn't like how it performed. Another Pixie. You know what? I'm just not a fan of Pixie eyeshadows, so this is gonna be a bye-bye. And then we have some Rimmel London palettes here that really did not perform very well for me. These are actually new here, so I'm gonna just donate these. And these here, I remember that they were applying. The shadows were not pigmented, and I just did not really enjoy playing around with these. So I'm going to be getting rid of these here. And then we have these glitters from Pixie. And again, I don't know if I said it in this video already, but my eyes don't do well with pressed glitters, even though these are really pretty. I just had to play with them. So I already used them because they were so pretty. I had to play with them, but it was a reminder not to do it. And I still keep doing it every now and then. Here is the Date Night Joa birthday suit palette. Hated this palette. Sorry. Bye. We have some, oh, you know what? This is a must-have. This is the Wet n Wild Rose in the Air palette. Warm tone palette. Really nice. Blends really, really well. And again, if you're on a budget, you should definitely check this out. I would prefer this one over the last one I recommended. I really like this. I think I want to keep this for sure. This here is the Full Spectrum CoverGirl eyeshadow palette. All shimmers. I'm not going to use it, so I'm going to throw this away. These Full Spectrum CoverGirl highlighters. I remember really liking these. I forgot I had them. Very, very buttery. Like, really nice highlighters. Like, I forgot, and I should be using these. Look how nice they look. Part of me wants to keep it, and I think I'm gonna keep it and just put it closer to my vanity. Let's see here. This is the Wet n Wild, the This here is the Boo Crew eyeshadow palette. The color scheme, I'm probably just not going to use it. I don't think I ever used it. Like, you guys can see that they don't look touched. I think I opened it just to share it on camera when I received it. Maybe I'll give it to somebody that I know. Maybe they'll like it. Yeah, I'm going to do that. And then here is the Wet n Wild, I forgot, Not a Basic Peach palette. I did a really pretty look using this palette from what I remember. I'll put it here if I find it on the screen. But this is definitely a must go. I'm never going to reach out for this, even though I created a really pretty look with this. Like, too much makeup. This is another palette called Coffin Break from Wet n Wild. Girl, you need to try Wet n Wild eyeshadows and then let me know what you think, because I just wish that they would put a little bit more love into their packaging, you know, because I think that their eyeshadows are really, really nice. But I'm definitely going to get rid of this. I need some space. This is another Megan Thee Stallion palette that I received from Revlon, and this is the Enigma palette. I'm not going to get any more use out of this. I think I used it once, but not going to use it again. Then moving along to Laura Geller Multitasking Eye, Lip, and Cheek palette. Oh, I remember this. Yeah, I didn't like it. I'm going to get rid of it. Here we have the Full Spectrum CoverGirl palette. From what I remember, I didn't like the shimmers. The mattes were really pretty, but I already have mattes that are similar to that from other palettes, so I'm going to be getting rid of this here. And that completes the drugstore palettes that I have. This is going to be the last basket. I just really have to get rid of my makeup. I know this is a very long video, but I have to do it, and I just wanted to film it, show you guys what's in my collection. So here is the Jeffree Star Blue Blood palette. I hardly use this palette because it has all blues. I'm not going to be going out on an everyday basis using blues. This is definitely a palette. Whenever I think of something blue, I always reach for this palette. Like, I actually really enjoy playing around with these colors here, but not for like a wedding or like any special event for like a date or anything like that. I just don't really enjoy wearing blues for going out. So nice palette though. I'm definitely going to be keeping that. We have the Violet Voss Best Life eyeshadow palette. This has a row of full of glitters here. These are all pressed glitters. There's also a good size mirror on this end. It opens kind of weird, as you guys can see. It has a lot of pretty, I think this was one of my summer favorites. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before. But yeah, I think it's time to let this one go. Goodbye. Then moving along to the Hypnotize palette from Pinky Rose Cosmetics. I think I wanted to play around with this. I keep telling you guys that I am drawn to glitter so much. I think that glitter makeup looks so beautiful, but I just cannot play with glitters because they irritate my eyes. So I'm not going to be getting any use out of this palette. I haven't used it before. I just intended to, and I put it inside of my basket thinking I was going to use it, but I just know that I shouldn't. So I'm going to put this in a giveaway pile. I also have the Jeffree Star Cosmetics. I forgot which palette. But I actually really like this palette. I'm going to play around with it a little bit more. I know I should, but I forget. So I'm going to use this. Definitely. And this is definitely a collector's piece. Like, look at this. Velvet. Then I have a Pinky Rose Cosmetics Luscious Plum palette. Looks like this here. Loving these colors right here. I probably used this twice already, and I remember really liking it. I just forget that I have this as well. Definitely going to be keeping this. Moving along to our next palette from Morphe and Madison Beer. So this is what this palette looks like. I used this one time. I definitely have to get more use out of this. I'm going to be keeping this, and yeah. Here we have the Fenty Beauty eyeshadow palette. I don't think that I own any other Fenty eyeshadow palette, so I'm going to be keeping this one here. Even though some of these shimmers I wasn't really fond of, like these here. I really like this one. Haven't even played with these, so I'm going to keep this one because I still want to keep playing around with it. We have a Wet n Wild highlighting palette from last year's holiday collection. I really like Wet n Wild's highlighters, but I think it's time to let this one go. I think I only used this one time. This one time as well. But it's time to say goodbye. This was also only $10. Next, we have the Carity Rose All Day eyeshadow palette. Pink palette. I used this so much, I think, last year. Or was it early? No, yeah, it was last year for Valentine's Day. It's definitely an older palette that I hardly reach for, so I'm going to be getting rid of this. Here we have the Pinky Rose 80s Baby eyeshadow palette. This is definitely one of my favorite palettes. It looks like this here. Loving the colors in here, and I cannot let this one go. We're going to move over to the Sigma Enchanted palette. When I first received it, I just played around with this a lot. The shimmers in here are so gorgeous. But I think it's time to let this one go because I probably won't be getting... And no, you know what? I kind of want to keep it. I think I'm going to keep it. Here we have the Pinky Rose Obsessed palette. I love the packaging of this one. The watercolor roses. Definitely love this one. The colors in here are also really pretty, super pigmented, and I love the color story of this. So I'm going to keep this one as well. Oh girl, this one is a must go. If you receive this in BOXYCHARM, you know why. Goodbye. Then I have the Riviera Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow palette. I'm going to be keeping this one. Yeah. Moving along to the Pure Festival eyeshadow palette. This one is like crumbling. It's becoming a mess. I don't think I'll ever reach for this, so I'm going to let this one go. And then we have the Bretman Rock X Wet n Wild eyeshadow palette. I was really excited about this palette. I just forgot why I didn't use it again. Yeah, this one is no longer sold, and like I said, I don't like using eyeshadow palettes that are no longer available to you guys, because if I use it, I really can't share the look because you guys can't get the look without this palette. Well, you guys probably could, but yeah, I'll probably gift this one to somebody, maybe one of my little cousins. Then we have the Pure Cosmetics Raw Beauty Christie palette. I cannot get rid of anything from Raw Beauty Christie. She sketched out all these designs on this palette. Looks like this here. It's so unique. I love the fact that, like, you know, everyday colors. Then you flip it on the other side and it has the bold, colorful colors. I cannot let this one go. I still need to use this a lot more. I haven't been using this one. Then moving along to the Exotic Peacock palette from Pinky Rose Cosmetics. I'm just blazing through this now. All these colors are also really nice. I can't let go of this one along with the other two Pinky Rose palettes that look like this. And then the 80s Baby palette. Love those palettes so much. We have the Zoeva Cocoa Blend palette. I'm going to let this one go only because I feel like I have these shades in the Madison Beer palette. So letting that one go. And then I have the Olimar Cosmetics eyeshadow palette. Looks like this here. I created so many fun looks using this palette, and I think this is like my only Olimar Cosmetics palette, so I'm going to keep this one for now. And then this is the Morphe 24A Artist Pass palette. This bottom row is all pressed glitters. That one right there is like pressed glitter. It's not going to hurt me to let this one go. I also have a Pinky Rose Cosmetics Sunflower palette. I can't let this go. I'm obsessed with sunflowers, the color story in here. Love it. Even though I have these shadows in other palettes, I just love the fact that it's sunflowers, so I'm keeping that one. Then the last palette is the In a Trance ColourPop palette. I've used this one maybe 4 times already, and I love the pastels in here, so I'm going to keep this one a little bit longer, and that completes all of my eyeshadow collection. Okay, friends, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did watch all the way through, like, you are the real MVP. Thank you for being here today, and I really enjoyed doing this type of video because I was able to find palettes that I totally forgot about, including the Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 eyeshadow palette, which I used for this look here. I'll have a mini tutorial linked down below in my description box if you guys want to check that out. And before I end the video, I did want to mention that I was not able to donate any of this makeup because my local homeless shelter does not accept used makeup, especially during times like these. And I even have a hard time having them accept brand new makeup, which is kind of like odd, but there's like one lady in there that actually accepts it. I showed her what I do for a living, so she totally understands it and is very open to receiving the makeup when I do take it there. There's other ladies that are like, like they don't want to accept it, so like I'm not trying to argue that. I always have boxes of makeup to take over to my family and friends' house whenever I do visit them, but I have been staying away from my family and friends because of COVID. I'm not too concerned about my health or my family here at the house, like, because I feel like we're all pretty healthy, but a lot of my family does have high blood pressure and they're diabetic. Regardless, if I'm making a trip to go down south, I'm stopping at public restrooms, I'm stopping in different places. I'm just not sure if I come in contact with the virus and then go visit them, give them kisses, hugs, and all that. Being under the same household, it just kind of like worries me. So I'd just rather stay at home and be safe than sorry. Thank you guys for being here today. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully I do see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to subscribe so that you are notified of what's next to come from my business. Bye!